Hello there, my name is Jeff Cardwell and I'm recording this video at the request of several friends of ours who have asked for information about what Leslie and I, my wife, were doing in Washington, D.C. last week. And we were actually there as part of the Advocacy Forum group, the 2014 Advocacy Forum group from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They had over 250 folks show up to go and speak to our representatives and our senators from all 50 states. Leslie and I were part of the Missouri group. We met some wonderful folks from Missouri, from Kansas, that we joined with as well in our efforts to talk to all the representatives and their legislative assistants, as well as the senators and their folks. And on Wednesday, when the meetings got started, Wednesday was just kind of an information day. We had a couple of wonderful, great speakers that came and talked to us. We also had a lot of information that was given to us about why we're there, what key points we're going to be talking about on Thursday, and that sort of thing. Thursday, we all loaded up on the buses and we headed to Capitol Hill, and it was a day of appointments, pre-scheduled appointments that we had set, and went out to all the offices and spoke with them about what they can do to help in the area of suicide prevention and mental health. And Friday was a day of talking about some of the things that we could do on a state level, and wrapping up on some other key points and some key information in reference to suicide prevention and things that we could do there. And then we headed home, and now the follow-up continues. And this is part of that follow-up. One of the things that I wanted to do was to share with folks some of the information that we received, and share some of the insight as to what we're trying to accomplish. And just kind of going from the basics, just right off the bat, there was three key things, three key points that we wanted to talk to those folks on the Hill about. And number one was increasing funding for suicide prevention research. One of the things that we learned while we were there is how little we invest in suicide prevention and mental health research and that type of thing. And I'll show you this. This is one of the things that we passed on to the folks. And I'll just kind of show you this real quick, just kind of as a starting point. This is pretty telling. I'll kind of hold this up here. If you need this information, feel free to email me, and I can probably give you this information. But just kind of looking right off the bat, and I know the focus probably isn't really good, but you'll see what I'm talking about here. A couple of things. This top graph here on this side here, basically, this is a graph showing the decrease or increase in our situation as far as suicide from 2000 to 2010 in certain areas of health. This first one here is suicide, and you can see that over the last 10 years that we've actually had a 31% increase in the amount of suicides in the United States. The next line is actual heart disease. Heart disease, we've actually had a decrease in the amount of folks that we've lost due to heart disease. And on down here, you go on further down, there's some cancer, different cancers here. The bottom one is AIDS. Actually, we've had a 42% reduction over the last 10 years in the amount of people that we lose to AIDS. And that's awesome. That's great. So we're having a huge impact in these areas. And the reason I bring this up is that right off the bat, one of the things that we're looking to do is to increase the funding for research as far as suicide prevention. And if you look at this next graph here, this actually shows in millions of dollars how much money we we from at the United States have invested through the government in research in these certain areas. And if you look here, this is $12 billion that we put into AIDS research. The next one here is I believe that's, if I can read that correctly, $1.1 billion, $3 billion, and again, these are the cancers here, $1.1 billion, heart disease, $5 billion. Okay, and basically what we're showing here is this is a direct correlation to the fact that we're able to have an impact on the amount of people we lose to those diseases. And so the amount of research that we've been able to accomplish over the last 10 years has had a major impact on the amount of folks we lose. And if you look over here on on your screen, it's going to be the far right. This is how much money that we've invested in suicide and mental health research. It's kind of just a little blip on the screen there, $165 million that we've invested. And of course, our hope is that if we can increase funding for research and attack, this area, the 10th leading cause of death in the United States is suicide. And if we could attack this and increase the funding, then maybe we can start having the same type of impact that we've had in these areas and have a reduction in the amount of folks that we lose to suicide. And so increasing funding for research, when you look at this graph is really telling. And so that was number one, is that we wanted to talk to them about increasing funding for suicide prevention and mental health research. And one of the Senate Bill 2035, and it's the HR 475 on the House side. It's called the Suicide Prevention and Research Innovation Act. There's actually some legislation on the floor that they're discussing at this very moment that we're trying to get them to sign on as sponsors and to pass. Again, it's the Suicide Prevention and Research Innovation Act. They refer to it as the SPRINT Act. And this particular legislation would provide funding to the National Institute of Mental Health to support suicide prevention and brain research. And it would increase funding of $40 million a year through the fiscal years 2015 through 2019. And this is a start. I mean, this is one of the things that we went and talked to them about, was increasing funding and getting this particular legislation passed. So, again, if you need more information, reach out to me and I can get you information. And I've already written letters since we've returned and emails to the legislative assistants that we spoke to while we were there, reminding them to urge our congressmen and women and our senators to support these. And again, on the Senate side, it's S 2035. On the House of Representatives side, it's the HR 4075, the Suicide Prevention and Research Innovation Act, the SPRINT Act. And again, that was just one of the areas that we talked about. The second thing that we talked with him about was ensuring that the mental health parity is a reality through the access to health care. And what that is that, for those that don't know, that back in 2008, they actually passed the mental health parity law, which goes into effect, at the latest by the beginning of 2015. And basically what that is it's a law that says that insurance companies have to treat mental illness just like they treat a physical illness. That if, in a lot of our healthcare plans, we have, counseling sessions or things that we can go to, but there's like a limited number. There's like a limited number. We've got up to, 10 visits a year or something like that. And what the health parity law dictates is that insurance companies have to treat mental health just like they treat, our physical health. And they have to provide the same number of visits for both. And so what we talked to them about when we were there is to make sure that they follow through on that law, that they provide the oversight and the accountability with the insurance companies to say, you have to do this. You have to follow the law. So that's something that we also talked to them about. There's some other legislation that's on the board or on the docket that pertain to this as well. I'm not going to get into each and every one of them. Again, if you want to know these, feel free to email me, and I can and certainly get you this information. The third thing that we brought up was which is really important, is to finish for them to finish fully funding the NVDRS, the National Violent Death Reporting System. And right now, currently, they've as of fiscal year 2013, the funding was $3.5 million for this, which allowed only 15 states to participate in the program. Congress did approve nearly $8 million for fiscal year 2014, which would allow more states, obviously, to participate. Excuse me. And the exact number of how many more states are going to be able to get on with that additional $8 million is unknown at this point. But we're urging Congress to go ahead and finish fully funding the NVDRS so that we can have all 50 states on board with the National Violent Death Reporting System. Now, that's important for us in the aspect that a lot of these numbers that we have, the suicide being the 10th leading cause of death, and these types of things. A lot of these numbers, the fact that we've lost 38,000 people to suicide in 2010 is because we don't know the numbers currently of what we're doing. So a lot of the numbers that we get are so far delayed because we don't have all 50 states on this system of reporting these instances, which is it's kind of like fighting blindly, with the mask over your face. We need to know what we're faced with. We need to know if we're having an impact. We need to know, just like in this situation, when we start getting the funding, are we going to start seeing that red? The amount of people that we're losing to suicide every year, are we going to start seeing that percentage go down so that we can start having an impact? We need to know these numbers so that we can save lives. So that, again, the third thing was urging them to finish fully funding the National Violent Death Reporting System. There's a lot of other things we talked with them about as well. We talked to them about our military personnel and veteran suicide prevention. There's a lot of things going on that in that area as well. We urge them to support the Jacob Sexton Military Suicide Prevention Act, and that is on the Senate side. It's S810, which would establish a service-wide pilot program to integrate annual mental health assessments into the online questionnaire of a service member's annual periodic health assessment from inception into the service through transition to veteran status. So we urge them to support that. And we're urging the representatives in the House to introduce some similar legislation, because currently there is none. There's just the legislation that's on the Senate side. And we'd love to have the senators co-sponsor that. We want to, we really want to provide the benefits that we need for our veterans. We lose way too many people to suicide, not only on our civilian side, but with our active duty military and our veterans, and we need to focus on that as well. There's a lot of other facts that we learned. Some of the straightforward facts, if you want to know those. I mean, it's again, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death overall in the United States. The third leading cause of death. It's the third leading cause of death among 15 to 24-year-olds, and it's the second leading cause of death among 24 to 34-year-olds. David, our son, he was 27 when he passed away. And it's important that we focus on this. Again, from a research perspective, we need to increase funding so that we can provide more hope for people. For us right now, it's personal in the aspect that for us, it's too late for us to do anything to save our son, to save David, unfortunately. but it's not too late for us to do some things to save other folks who are struggling. And again, part of what we do is all about removing the stigma. We've got to create conversation. That's why Leslie and I have jumped in so wholeheartedly from the moment that we knew that we lost David to try to prevent another family from ever having to experience what we're experiencing. But one step at a time, and it's a journey, and we need support from everyone in order to be able to do these things. Just real quick, I'll give a kind of a recap of things. So one of the things that we did is we provided a folder with a lot of this information to each of the offices that we went to. Many of the appointments that we had on the Hill were actually with legislative assistance folks and folks that worked in the office for our representatives and our senators. And we left them a packet of information, a lot of what more in depth, obviously, with all the different legislative bills and stuff that are on the floor and what have you. But we did get to speak with them. We did share with them our stories. One of the things that we left with them in the packets was just our personal story. This is our son David, who passed away May 19th of 2012. And here he is with his daughter. At that time, she was I think about a year and a half, 2 years old. She's almost 4 years old now this summer. But we took our story to them and shared with them why we're involved and why it's important to us that another family member doesn't have to experience what we're having to go through. We did have the opportunity to actually meet with Congresswoman Ann Wagner. Although they had a lot of business going on during the day, and there was roll calls being held on the floor and a lot of votes that were taking place, we did catch her between her appointments and things that she had to get done, and we did have the opportunity to sit down and speak with her for a few moments. If for those of you who don't know, Congresswoman Ann Wagner is the 2nd District representative for the House of Representatives from St. Louis, Missouri. So we look forward to continued interaction with her and asking her for her continued help. It was quite an experience. Again, it was something that we're very passionate about as far as doing what we can to help others and to make sure that we as a country, focus on the wellness of our people. One of the speakers was Patrick Kennedy, and he spoke heavily about us. Actually, I mean, it's pretty much common sense, but taking care of our brain, this organ in our body, we're so focused on all these other organs and taking care of our heart and liver and lungs and cancer and heart disease and all that stuff, which is great. But his impact was really getting us to understand that we've also got to focus on the motherboard, the organ that actually helps all that function. And we don't treat our brain the same way, unfortunately, that we do a lot of our other organs and other diseases and stuff. And we need to, and that's telling based on looking at how much money we invest in research for mental health and suicide prevention and what have you. But we need to treat our brain just like we treat our other organs, and we need to take care of our mind and body. Anyway, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and feel free to email me if you have any questions or message me on Facebook. My email is jeffcardwell@ymail.com. That's jeffcardwell@ymail.com. You can find me on Facebook. Feel free to ask me any questions that you have. It's time for us to remove the stigma suicide and depression and mental illness, and let's start getting the help to the people that need it. Thank you.